Dissident Daughter and Emasculating Disruptor. These sound like sort of these superhero villain names from some comic strip or the next Marvel film. They seem sort of otherworldly and in some ways overemphasized or an extreme version of what we may encounter in our human relationships. But to be honest, these two identities, Dissident Daughter and Emasculating Disruptor, are one of the primary elements of deep rooted conflict with Gen X and Millennial women, both in their personal lives, in their families of origin, as well as in religious and professional systems. And when I began to learn about this dynamic, it really came from my own personal experience leaving organized religion and ordained parish ministry as a clergy. The conflict that often came up in congregational settings often was an alliance of older women with internalized sexism, meaning that they had not been afforded opportunities and voice in their own lives and felt that then other women younger than them should also or would also not encounter those elements of agency. So internalized sexism of older women, and then conflict coming from insecure men, regardless of age, but social insecurity, economic insecurity would sort of activate men who were working alongside agentic younger women with a sense of voice and boundaries. So I noticed that there was this sort of bizarre alliance between typically baby boomer women who are the age of my own mother, as well as these insecure men. And I said, what is the commonality there? They each had various different needs, different, criticisms of, leadership that they saw younger women in. And I looked into this a little bit more as I've been interviewing Gen X and Millennial women leaders who have been derailed and scapegoated in their contexts. And I've realized that this is quite a strong trend. And it has a lot to do with what Vern Redekop calls human identity needs and deep-rooted conflict. So human identity needs are different than sort of biological needs for food, shelter, water. Human identity needs are things that are associated with our relationships with other people. And those can be power, control, identity, relationality, security, recognition. These are things that would be identified as a human identity need. And unlike those biological needs, they need to have other people to fulfill those needs. And so if you think of older women in these spaces that I'm discussing and then insecure men, there's a human identity need that they are looking toward that younger female leader to fulfill. And when that need is not fulfilled, there is an immediate reactivity toward that woman leader. So if you think about the older women who are the age of our mothers, typically in the baby boomer population, perhaps what their need is when they see a younger woman leader is that this woman reflect her needs and desires for the role of the daughter, regardless of whether she has her own biological daughter. And if those acts of sort of compliance, agreeability, deference to the mother figure are not felt, then that older woman sees this younger female leader as a dissident daughter. Now, this isn't something that an older woman is going to identify readily. It's oftentimes a subconscious understanding of how she relates to that younger generation woman. But it's a really powerful thing for women leaders themselves to identify when they're faced with conflict that has that intergenerational dynamic with older women. And then if you look at men in these contexts, those men that feel threatened and somehow emasculated by younger women leaders, typically it's because of their own human identity need for a particular masculine narrative, that this agentic woman with boundaries who is self-differentiated is threatening those expectations of sort of a compliant, appeasing woman that would somehow reinforce this man's personal narrative of being a man. And so you have, again, this sort of mythical title of the woman being an emasculating disruptor. And again, this man isn't going to readily identify that, nor is this older woman going to say, yes, of course, I see this woman leader as a dissident daughter. In many ways, these two individuals will dig their heels in and say, no, it has to do with the inabilities or ineptness of that leader and nothing to do with me and my own identity. But of course it is. So for women that are dealing with deep-rooted conflict in their professional and personal lives, it's really important to identify what the human identity needs might be for those people that are activated or reactive toward your leadership. It's really helpful in depersonalizing the accusations that may be coming your way and looking at the larger social systems at play and the impact of those deep-rooted human identity needs. Most likely, the individuals who are activated or reactive by you will not be able to acknowledge that themselves. So it's then going to be up to you to address, is this a safe situation for me? Is this a sustainable context for me to live, lead, and serve in whatever context that you want to? And perhaps finding other environments and connections with people that will not, feel as threatened by your leadership and by just the very nature of who you are. So being mindful of that will really help you stay grounded in your life.